my god, hi. Oh my god, hi. We don't need to see what's on the screen. Haha, chat. Chat. Okay, hi everyone. We're reading today. Sorry I'm late, but also I'm not. But also I am, but also I'm not. So, do you want me to read to you or not? Damn, stop being so needy. Stop asking so many questions. Stop being so demanding. Hi. I just ate and I also went on a walk. I went on a walk today. It was fun. I haven't been outside in a while and I really needed that. I also got tea, but they were out of boba. Because I got there at like 9 p.m. So you already no way. Anyway, I have more tea. More. Oh yeah, I got back and then I made food. And I did a little bit of editing, and then I made food and I ate it and I ate it. And then I'm here now. Hello. My insomnia won't let me go back to sleep, so I'm here at 5 a.m. Oh my god, 5 a.m. You're just like me for real. Hi Mothman, how you doing? I mean, you just told me, but how you doing actually? Tell me your deepest, darkest secrets. Anyway, we're reading Scum Villain Self-Selling System, Volume 2. We're on Chapter 11, titled Corpse. This one is fun. This one is a lot of fun. This one is quite a lot of fun. This one is all Luchinga mentioned. I love Luchinga. If you haven't noticed already. I do. I really do. How dare you? How dare you? How could you? Why? This guy is just trying to humiliate me all the time. God, I hate that. God, that's so fucking weird. Anyway. Squeak! It is. Oh my god. Okay. Oh. This guy. Oh, hi Shady, how are you doing? You ready for stream? you're coming in during a reading stream? Just in the middle of the whole series. I think this like literally is the middle of the series. It's great. If you haven't read Scum Villain, here's an introduction. I'm surviving, which I'm taking as a win. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. I'm proud of you. Good job. all right. Jeez, these people are so needy. Wow. Tea. Alright, let's get into it. I fucking love this book. I know you love it. We all love it. Let's get into it. We're on page 245. Quick maths. Yippee! 245 on chapter 11 called Corpse. Let's see how good my reading is today. A violent surge of spiritual light and killing intent burst from Chung Luan. Shen Qingzhou's guard was up as he glanced back and forth between the two. Then suddenly, he looked in the direction in which Lu Qingge's sword was pointed. From his brain there came the sound of the last surviving shred of his worldview, finally shattering. Luo Binghe's right hand was on Shin Mo, which never left his side. The snow-white blade already almost halfway out of its sheath, yet his left arm was, in fact, holding a person. I forgot about this. Though Shen Qingzhou called it a person, it was more correct to say a body. It was completely lifeless, its head lolling and limbs slack, yet also completely pliable. It too wore a set of flimsy inner robes, the neckline having slipped past its shoulder, exposing half of a paper white back. "What have you done?" said Lu Qingge. Lu Qingge would never forget the scene he had witnessed just seconds before. After Chung Luan had torn open the entrance, he had found a room completely empty other than the overlapping silhouettes among the curtains. Lu Qingge knew that Luo Binghe definitely had to be in the pavilion, but he never could have imagined that he wasn't the only one within. Luo Binghe raised his eyebrows, tugging the limp body in his left arm further into his embrace. "You tell me, what have I done?" Shen Jingzhou was thoroughly speechless. Two people, or you should say, one alive person and one dead person, rolling off something similar to a bed together in clothes that barely covered anything. It didn't look like something family-friendly, whatever way you spun it. Without a single word from Lu Qingge, Cheng Luan shot forward. Shinmo had yet to be drawn all the way, so using only the sheath, Luo Binghe blocked Cheng Luan's point. The energy from Cheng Luan's sword glares was overwhelming, shifting sideways slightly. Luo Binghe blocked the bitingly cold energy attacks, keeping the body in his arms safe behind him, as his expression grew angry. Oh no, he's angry. Oh no, oh no. Luo Binghe, don't be angry. I love this fight. I love this fight so much. Oh my god. Lu Qingge, too, had realized that if he deployed Cheng Luan within such a cramped chamber, a bit of carelessness might lead to his razor-sharp sword energy damaging that body. He instantly returned his sword to its sheath and began pitting his spiritual energy against Luo Binghe's. As they tumbled around, locked in combat, the loose clothes on that body slipped completely down to its waist, and Luo Binghe's palm pressed flush against that fair skin. "Beast! No matter what, he's still your Shizun!" Lu Qingge said, with bloodshot eyes. "You think I'd do this with an outsider?" Luo Binghe asked calmly. Oh, calmly, my bad. "You think I'd do this with an outsider?" Luo Binghe asked calmly. The Hanhua Palace disciples, who'd formed several circles around them, were all dumbstruck. Luo Binghe paid them no attention, his entire focus on dealing with Lu Qingge. Spiritual energy whirled like boiling water in the air around them, shooting in all directions. As they clashed, their expressions worsened, each more frightening than the last. No one dared to step inside Huanhua Pavilion for fear of being caught in the crossfire. Shen Jingzhou, however, wasn't afraid of the crossfire. They were merely unable to look at it straight on. Too hardcore. Way too fucking hardcore. Even if his imagination had been as vast as the moon was covered with craters, he had still never imagined that one day he would become a character in this kind of hardcore kink play. Fucking love it. The thing Luo Binghe was holding in his arms, that was indeed dead, right? A bit of necrophilia never hurt anyone. I'm kidding, don't do that. He absolutely wasn't mistaken, because that was his corpse, okay? This had already surpassed the level of fridge horror. Even before he thought about it carefully, it was already becoming horrifying. Yes, this is the point where you sit down and eat popcorn. It is. Even though he couldn't force himself to look directly, he hadn't forgotten his reason for coming back. Shen Jingzhou flashed behind Lu Qingge. The latter went on guard, believing this to be an ambush, and let out a dark laugh, preparing to send his assailant flying with spiritual chi. However, instead, a hand pressed against Lu Qingge's back, and a stream of steady, gentle, yet powerful spiritual energy flooded into his meridians. Once Lu Qingge received this aid, he could somewhat push back Luo Binghe. Lu Qingge dared not to be careless, but he turned his head slightly. Out of the corner of his eye, he could only make out the muddled visage of the person behind him, as if there was something covering their face. "Who's there?" Lu Qingge asked quietly. Shen Jingzhou didn't answer, and instead sent more force through his hands. The two peerlessly powerful streams of spiritual energy merged into one. Though Luo Binghe could block it perfectly, this blast of offensive spiritual energy would travel down his body and into the corpse in his arms. He could dissipate the energy, but the dead could not. If he didn't let go, the shock would probably cause the body's facial apertures to rupture. Apertures? Aperture. This is something I can read, but I've never said out loud. Luo Binghe was unwilling to harm the corpse, so he could only release it. The body was shortly tossed away by the boiling spiritual field, flying outward. Even after letting go, Lo Binghe's gaze remained firmly fixed on that body, his expression both helpless and reluctant. Shen Qingzhou suddenly found that expression of his unbearable. Using this method to force him to let go somehow felt like a bit like bullying? Several disciples lacked sense and moved to take action. "Don't touch him!" Lo Binghe yelled. Even from a distance, a wave of his sleeve filled that direction with screams. Shen Qingzhou withdrew the spiritual energy he had been applying to Lu Qingge's back. With a tap of his foot, he launched himself forward, catching the body within his arms. Gay. Hi, gay. The sensation of holding your own corpse definitely wasn't just an ordinary level of incredible. Shen Qingzhou gave it a couple of cursory glances. His body's complexion was actually still decidedly rosy, its 4 limbs pliant. Other than the tightly closed eyes and lack of breath, it was no different from a living person in deep sleep. God, it's so painful. Lo Binghe. Ow. After self-detonation, one spiritual energy was entirely dispersed. No cultivation remained within to prevent the corpse's decay. On top of that, more than 5 years had passed since his death, so just preserving the body with ice wouldn't have yielded this level of success. The body didn't smell of herbs, so it probably hadn't been treated with chemicals either. It was unclear what method Lo Binghe used. Shen Qingzhou dodged a spiritual blast strong enough to split stone and looked up. Lo Binghe was currently staring dead at him, his expression ferocious. Only now did Shen Qingzhou realize that his body's clothes had already slipped all the way down its torso, and that he was holding its naked flesh. Given how he'd been touching and gazing at it, no matter how you looked, it was a both incredibly disturbing and rather provocative sight. He hurriedly pulled up the corpse's clothes, then sent this hot potato, oh my god, and sent this hot potato toward Lu Qingge. Catch! Shen Qingzhou, the man that you are. Lo Binghe wanted to seize it, but he was intercepted by Shen Qingzhou. Originally, Shen Qingzhou had been worried that Lo Binghe would activate the heavenly demon blood mites, but whether murderous intent had gone to his head or his panic had sent him into a tizzy, he surprisingly didn't think to activate that trump card. Lu Qingge caught the body with one arm and called forth Chengluan with his free hand, easily beating back the circle of attacking Huanhua Palace disciples. Due to being tossed back and forth between them, the corpse's top had finally ripped completely. When Lu Qingge caught it, he felt an expanse of smooth skin beneath his palm, both fine and cool, and the area where his hand touched seemed to skitter with a slight electric current. Lu Qingge's entire body froze. Finding no appropriate place he could hold the body, he almost sent it back once more. That's the gay panic. Lu Qingge's gay panic. Oh, he's so dumb. Luckily, he managed to resist this impulse in the end and took off his outer robe. The white cloth spread like wings and bundled up the body in his arms. Chengluan flew back and steadily hovered before his feet. Race, Foxy. Oh my goodness, I'm honored. Forgot about the corpse clothing malfunction. I forgot about the corpse thing until just now, and then the malfunction. Yeah, of course it's gonna do that though. Of course we're gonna tear off some clothes. This is Scum villain. What else is gonna happen? Lu Binghe's eyes had turned fully scarlet. The entire Huanhua Pavilion was like a tightly sealed box, and inside the box a bomb had been placed. When the bomb exploded, the walls collapsed with a loud rumble. Falling alongside the flying sand and hurtling stones, aside from people and more people, were 2 objects that hit the ground with a metallic clang. When Shen Qingzhou focused and looked, he saw they were actually 2 swords. Zhengyang, Xuya. These 2 swords had originally shared the same fate and broken into numerous sections of blade shards. It was unclear how they had been repaired, but they had been tied together and placed in Huanhua Pavilion. Only with the pavilion's collapse did they once again see the sun and sky. Seeing these two swords once more left an indescribable feeling in Shen Jingzhou's heart. He looked toward Lo Binka, whose clothes had been disheveled from the start. After that wave of explosions, his clear-cut collarbones and chest lay entirely exposed. Near where his heart lay, there snaked a hideous-looking sword wound. Lo Binka! Lo Binka! God, he's so fucking emo. Lo Binka's ability to regenerate was surpassingly powerful. Even if his limbs were chopped off, he could flawlessly reattach them. If you went a bit more hardcore, he could even grow new ones without problem. Unless he purposefully chose not to heal an injury, there were no wounds he couldn't mend, and none that could leave a scar. Luchinga! Lo Binka shouted. For Shizun's sake, I've let you live over and over again, but since you want to die so badly, you can't blame me. The force of his subsequent eruption of spiritual energy and murderous intent almost made Shen Jingzhou's internal organs shift inside him. He knew Lo Binka was furious, and he hurried to yell at Luchinga. Still haven't left? It felt like ever since he'd come to this world, he'd kept playing the role of the selfless rear guard who'd sacrificed himself for others. Luchinga gave him a glance, then was as decisive as expected. He left without delay, tucking the body beneath his arm and jumping onto his sword, then flying off at lightning speed. Lo Binka wanted to take action, but abruptly, a violent tremor shook his heart, and Shinmo's sudden recoil forced him still for a beat. Due to this one missing beat, he could only watch helplessly as Luchinga flew off with Shen Jingzhou's corpse under his arm. He remained in place in a daze, a blankness flickering over his face for an instant. He'd forgotten to even return fire. He had the appearance of a child who had his entire world, his most beloved thing, snatched away from him, whose sky was about to collapse and fall. He is. Oh, he's a baby. He's scary, but he's a baby. Shen Jingzhou had originally planned to take advantage of the chaos to slip away, but when he saw this, for some reason his feet remained stuck in place, and that unbearable flash from before grew even stronger. But even if he found the sight unbearable, it couldn't be helped. If he'd continued to let Lo Binka embrace that corpse, who knew what gravely sinful and terrifying developments could have transpired? The real problem was that his heart had softened at such an inopportune time. He hadn't managed to slip away. Lo Binka's head turned sharply in his direction, and those two severe red eyes locked on him. Within its sheath, Shinmo began to tremble with both joy and malice. Lo Binka's expression clearly told Shen Jingzhou that he would absolutely, positively, hack him into 1,000 pieces. Binka, watch out, they're coming for you! Shen Jingzhou looked at his eyes that were both furious and devastated, and backed up 2 steps. Then all of a sudden, as if his mind had been bewitched, he wanted to tell Lo Binka something true. The cops coming for the spicy. Yeah, they are. No, don't take it away from me. No, my beloved. He wanted to say, don't be sad. Shizun isn't dead. Just as he moved his lips, a black shadow sprang out from the group of Huanhua Palace disciples. That silhouette was unbelievably fast and nimble. It snatched Shen Jingzhou up like a whirlwind and left just like that. Lo Binka's eyesight and reflexes were exceptional, yet the spiritual blast he fired managed to miss. He stood in place, emotionlessly looking at the ruins that remained of Huanhua Pavilion and at the troops strewn everywhere. The entire time, the Huanhua Palace disciples had been unable to interfere, but they too knew that Luo Binghe's mental state was unstable after this series of losses. He would definitely explode in rage. They hurried to kneel en masse. It also happened that Sha Hualing had finally made it to the pavilion. She rushed to the front, but Luo Binghe sent her flying the moment she arrived, and she coughed up 3 liters of blood. She'd long known that Luo Binghe was temperamental, but not knowing what had enraged him this time, she said in a terror, "My lord, calm down! My lord, calm down!" "The person you brought back is really quite something," said Luo Binghe. This really quite something was so fearsome that it would have been less scary if Luo Binghe had told her to commit suicide on the spot. Sha Hualing's soul almost left her body. "This subordinate has something to report," she said hastily. The moment the break-in occurred, this subordinate detected the problem and went to deal with it. Lu Qingge wasn't the only intruder. The Peak Lord of Baijian Peak had scouted the palace's interior by cover of night, but he was unable to break the maze array. However, someone had broken the maze array beforehand, and using that, Lu Qingge also successfully infiltrated. Luo Binghe gazed in the direction in which Lu Qingge had disappeared on his sword and slowly clenched his fist, the bones of his knuckles cracking. Sha Hualing figured that Luo Binghe genuinely didn't care who the other intruder was. He was only concerned with Shen Qingzhou's body, which had been stashed away, so she hastily changed her tune. "Lu Qingge can't get very far carrying that by himself. This subordinate will take some forces and give chase." "No need," said Luo Binghe. Sha Hualing shivered, her heart chilly, a vague premonition welling up within. And indeed, she heard Luo Binghe coldly say, "I'll go myself. Call Mobei here." I'm sorry, Mobei Jun mentioned? This is the entire cast. We're gonna see the entire cast in one scene. This is the ensemble episode. This is the ensemble episode. Anyway, that was a scene break. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful scene break. Okay. I love this book. It really is an ensemble episode. Oh my god, I love everyone in this fucking book. We're at the bottom of page 254. I am speaking so fast, I had caffeine earlier today. Haha. At this time, Shen Qingzhou finally came to understand exactly how gentle Luo Binghe had been while controlling the blood mites in his body. If Luo Binghe really wanted to kill someone with heavenly demon blood, the pain would in no way be only on the level of period cramps. He could make you wish you were dead, make it hurt until you couldn't stand straight, couldn't speak, until you could only roll around on the floor, and afterward, you'd lie there like a corpse. But the head-to-toe anguish wouldn't lessen even the slightest bit. Okay, bold of you to assume that people don't get period cramps like that. That's what my period cramps feel like, okay, bitch? Shen Qingzhou, you need... You need... I think he needs to have more cramps. Everyone, project your cramps onto him at once. All at once, alright? 3, 2, 1. I don't have cramps right now, but my next cramps will go to him. Anyway. There was no way you could last until it dulled, or until you got used to it. Case in point, after his rampaging fury passed, Luo Binghe had finally remembered that he still had his heavenly demon blood. The person who dragged Shen Qingzhou off in the midst of the confusion had probably reached someplace safe as their pace slowed, and they began to walk while supporting him. Shen Qingzhou wanted to sit, not walk, but he no longer had the strength to speak. He was dragged along, half dead, for a stretch before that person finally realized something was wrong. They lowered Shen Qingzhou to the ground. The voice they spoke with was both gentle and refreshing, the words measured. They seemed to be a young man. I get to voice him. I finally get to voice my boy. My boy. What's wrong? The young man asked in a concerned tone. Were you injured just now? Shen Qingzhou moved his lips, but he still lacked the strength to speak a single word. At present, it was like millions of blood mites were carousing his capillaries. Capillaries or capillaries? I don't know. Biting and swelling, squirming and twisting, the sensation both disgusting and agonizing. This was teaching Shen Qingzhou that when Lo Binghe had activated the blood mites in his body before, he had had no malice at all, and had basically been 120% tender-hearted, more or less just briefly teasing him. Shen Qingzhou rapidly ran through the various achievements and honors he'd earned under the system's coercion, and he honestly found it hilarious beyond belief. Exactly where had he gone wrong? How had his actions resulted in Lo Binghe's feelings of that for him? Shen Qingzhou searched himself and concluded that he'd been a staunch, straight man from birth. And that all the heaven and earth could testify this. Okay, buddy. There should have been no need to doubt Lo Binghe's orientation either, so exactly whose fault was this? Oh my god, I read the next sentence. Fucking hell. So stupid. No need to wonder. If a character was derailed, it was of course the author's fault. Everything could be blamed on airplane shooting towards the sky. Two dry laughs had just left Shen Qingzhou when there was another burst of excruciating pain, and he really did roll around on the ground a couple of times. It seemed that doing this could alleviate the agony a little. He'd hardly rolled anywhere when he was held in place by the person who'd taken him. The young man touched Shen Qingzhou's forehead along with his cheeks. His beard had mostly fallen off, leaving it sparse and patchy, and cold sweat was everywhere. That touch trailed downward until it was at Shen Qingzhou's chest and abdomen. For some reason, the places he felt the places he touched felt a bit better. Shen Qingzhou sucked in a breath, and he couldn't help but say, my friend, where are you touching? Even a few hours ago, he genuinely wouldn't have cared where others, especially those of the same sex, touched him. They could touch wherever they liked. Please, go ahead. But ever since Lo Binghe had opened a series of gates to a new world for him, Shen Qingzhou's worldview, which had been set for the past 20+ years, had suffered a heavy blow. From now on, he needed to look at this world with a new gaze and more sensitive attitude. They're each other's gay awakening. Oh my goodness. When in doubt, blame airplane. I know. Blame airplane. Blame my boy airplane. God, I love him. I love him so much. Sorry, I think I have something stuck in my teeth and it's been bothering me. Maybe not. Okay. God, what the fuck is this book? Especially on the issue of befriending those of the same sex. That person made an sound, then quickly let go and apologized. Sorry, I didn't mean to. No, said Shen Qingzhou. You can touch. Please continue. Thank you. It wasn't an illusion. When this person let go, Shen Qingzhou immediately began to hurt. It seemed like this guy really could pacify the heavenly demon blood. Oh, they're feeding you. It wasn't that. I already read that. Shen Qingzhou turned his head. He couldn't see the young man's face clearly beneath the moonlight, but those features were more or less bright and refined. The eyes incredibly pellucid? Pellucid? Pellucid. I need somebody to tell me how to pronounce that. They reflected Shenqingzhou's silhouette and the crisp moonlight, like dew water. Ooh. The images overlapping within them. Ooh, ooh. What is like dew water? What? Who? What? Do? Who? Shenqingzhou looked at those eyes and faintly recalled something. But before he could give it careful thought, something exploded within his brain, the pain so great that he groaned. Shoving his head downward, he curled his fingers into a fist and furiously bashed the ground. That is me on my period. on my period with my cramps. Pellucid. I'm right? Okay. What the fuck? Okay. Suddenly, Shenqingzhou felt someone lift him by the back collar, his lower jaw throbbing as his mouth was forced open, and a liquid poured in. His tongue was numb, and from the reaction of the acid in his stomach, he thought, though he couldn't tell what taste this liquid had, it probably wasn't anything delicious. Choking, he wanted to spit it out, but the young man covered his mouth. Though his movements were forceful, his tone was incredibly tender. Swallow, he coaxed. Shenqingzhou's throat bobbed violently, and in the moment of haste, he ended up swallowing the liquid anyway. Rivulets of the unknown liquid trickled from the corner of his lips. It says mouth, but same thing. He lowered his head while coughing harshly, and the young man patted his back from the side, helping him breathe. The shocking thing was that after this liquid entered his mouth and stomach, the pain from the blood mites, which had tormented him the entire trip, swiftly vanished. Translucently clear. You see, I got that from context clues, but yes. Lovely. Am I glitching, or is it just my preview? I think it's just me I think that's just Twitch being the way that it is. Okay. Shenqingzhou's body felt better, but the ground dropped out beneath his heart instead. He seized a fistful of the clothing at the young man's chest. What did you make me drink? The young man pried open Shenqingzhou's fingers, one by one, bringing them away from his chest and smiled. Does it still hurt? It didn't hurt. It really didn't hurt. But the fact that it didn't hurt was what made it scary. He never imagined that something like heavenly demon blood could have an antidote. As the sense of taste gradually returned to his tongue, Shenqingzhou felt that the stench of blood within his mouth was also growing stronger to the point that he felt nauseated. The original work had said very distinctly that all medicines were ineffective against heavenly demon blood. Only heavenly demon blood could keep heavenly demon blood in check. Fuck. Not only had he drunk it twice, he drunk heavenly demon blood from 2 different owners. Shenqingzhou really could fucking live up to the 8 words unprecedented and unparalleled, with none before or after. After thinking this, Shenqingzhou let out a cheerful whoop, then fell over, face first. He has so much blood in him. Oh, I love the parallels to periods and cramps and blood. I love the blood symbolism in this fucking book. MXTX, you are ahead of your time. That was a scene break, by the way. We are now on the bottom of page 275. Nope, 257. I have numbers dyslexia. You're a scene. Shut the fuck up. Alright. The sound of ripping flesh. What's more, it was accompanied by hoarse, wretched screams. Shenqingzhou pressed on his temples, and the scene before his eyes slowly clarified and focused. Maybe it's a good time to say, if you haven't seen the trigger warnings for this book, maybe you should check them out, if you're squeamish. A sea of blood, a mountain of corpses. Lobinka stood wooden in the midst of this purgatory of the scene. He wore black, so the blood couldn't mark his clothes, but half his face was splashed with specks of crimson, and he raised and lowered his sword callously and mechanically. Oh, I swallowed a spit. Okay. To start, when Chen Qingqiu first laid eyes on Luo Bingke, an image automatically surfaced in his mind, that of Luo Bingke holding Chen Qingqiu's corpse as he rolled off the bed in a heap. So it was hard to look at him directly. But soon he realized that Luo Bingke was massacring his own dream realm constructions. What difference was there between this and stirring his own brains with a knife? He's not an idiot who doesn't know better. Only a madman would do something like this. Though Chen Qingqiu often loved to say that Luo Bingke was a masochist who liked to torture himself, there was no way he could squeeze out a couple of dry laughs over this level of self-torture, or even take the time to ridicule it. God, I love Luo Bingke. Oh, I love him so much. Luo Bingke lifted his eyes to Chen Qingqiu, his gaze heavy, like his mind was unclear. But as soon as those eyes reflected Chen Qingqiu's silhouette, they instantly brightened, and he promptly tossed aside the long sword in his hand. He threw it far, far away, and then hid his bloodstained hands behind him, calling in a quiet voice, "Shizun." Then he remembered that his face was stained too, and as if to remedy this, he wiped the blood washed over half his face with his sleeves. But the more he wiped, the dirtier it became, and like a child who'd been caught stealing red-handed, he grew increasingly distressed. A stranger the first time, familiar the second. Chen Qingqiu had experienced pretending to be a product of artificial intelligence, and he could still project an unperturbed image. He involuntarily softened his voice when he spoke. "What are you doing?" "Shizun, I let you be taken from me again," Luo Bingke said quietly. "This disciple is useless and couldn't even hold on to your body." This answer made Chen Qingqiu's expression and emotions become equally complicated. So this cruel murder of his own dream realm constructions just now should be considered self-discipline? Given how deft Luo Bingke's actions had been, Chen Qingqiu feared that this wasn't the first time Luo Bingke had done this. No wonder Luo Bingke had been unable to distinguish the difference between the product of the dream realm and an intruder from the outside the last time they met. Chen Qingqiu sighed and deliberated for a while before gently comforting him. "What's lost is lost. I don't blame you." Luo Bingke stared at him vacantly. "But that's all I have left now." Chen Qingqiu suddenly didn't dare look him in the eye. Could Luo Bingke really have spent those 5 years clinging to a corpse, an empty shell Chen Qingqiu hadn't wanted anymore? Luo Bingke's voice abruptly chilled. "After Huayue City, I swore that in this life I'd never let Shizun be taken from me again. But I still let someone else snatch you away." The bitterness, along with the dark red color within his eyes, was both turbulent and deep-set. The long sword he tossed aside soared into the air on his command and pierced through the chests of several people who were on the ground in their death throes. Waves of wretched screams filled his ears. Don't cry. Don't cry, because if you cry, I'll cry, and we'll all be crying. Chen Qingqiu hastily restrained him. "Don't be reckless," he reprimanded. "Even if you're dreaming, this is no different from self-harm. Don't tell me you've forgotten." Of course Luo Bingke wouldn't have forgotten. He stared straight at Chen Qingqiu, flapping his hand over and pressing it over the back of his old master's. Only after a long while did he say, "I know that I'm dreaming. Only in a dream would Shizun still scold me like this." Oh my god. Upon hearing this line, Chen Qingqiu snapped back to his senses. He couldn't. This was wrong. He couldn't do this to Luo Bingke. If you didn't have that kind of intention towards someone, you shouldn't give them hope. The larger the hope, the larger the disappointment. His confused state of mind would only continue, and it would increase the chance that he would lose all reason. Even if this was a dream, he still couldn't drag his feet. He still couldn't drag his feet and pussy around like this. Trans Shenjing Cho canon? Hey. Sorry. Anyway. He had to be deceived. If he continued to indulge such ill-defined involvement, it would become an evil deed. Shenjing Zhou firmly yanked his hand back and corrected his expression, adopting that which he was best at, an unapproachable countenance, austere and aloof. That was a mouthful. Then he turned right. What the fuck, my brain? Then he turned right around and left. Upon being shaken off, Luo Binghe was stunned for a moment, then dashed after him. Shizun, I know I was wrong. If you know you're wrong, don't follow, Shenjing Zhou said coldly. I regretted it for a while, but I was never able to tell you, Luo Binghe said anxiously. Are you still angry that I drove you to self-detonate your spiritual energy? I've already fully repaired the meridians in Shizun's body. I'm not lying either. As long as I can enter the holy mausoleum, I'll definitely find a way to awaken you again. Shenjing Zhou didn't answer, hesitating over whether he should drop some harsh words to make Luo Binghe give up on this idea. But then Luo Binghe suddenly threw himself forward and embraced him from behind. He hugged Shenjing Zhou firmly, not budging an inch, even if Shenjing Zhou were to thrash and flail like a madman. Shenjing Zhou's entire body stiffened within the hug as if he had brushed up against some hairy thing, and the fine hairs on his body stood straight up. He gathered energy into his hand, but still didn't truly attack, instead spitting 2 words between gritted teeth. Beat it. It's supposed to be a guarantee that after blackening, Luo Binghe no longer goes down the route of misery. Take your hands off. Luo Binghe turned a deaf ear to his demand. Or is Shizun angry about what happened in Jinlan City? Correct, said Shenjing Zhou. Luo Binghe still refused to let go. When I first returned from the Endless Abyss, I learned that Shizun had told everyone else that I was killed by demons, he mumbled. At first I thought it was because Shizun was kind-hearted, that you still had some lingering sentiments and were unwilling to ruin my name. But after we met, I saw Shizun's attitude and became scared that I'd been too optimistic. I thought that Shizun hadn't concealed the truth from me, because... what the fuck? I thought that Shizun hadn't concealed the truth for me, but because he felt that because he felt that having brought up a demon would ruin his reputation. He cut a pitiful figure while speaking, the sentences tumbling out one after another, as if he was terrified that Shenjing Zhou would briskly interrupt and not let him continue. I really wasn't the one who arranged for the sowers. At the time, I was so angry I couldn't think. That's the only reason I let them shut Shizun in the water prison. I know I was wrong for a long time now. There would probably never be a time where the Luo Binghe in reality could ramble non-stop without caring for his image. In all likelihood, he would only dare prattle on like this within the dreams he created for himself. To push him away during this moment would be like giving a young maiden, one who'd finally worked up the courage to call and broken-heartedly weep to an older sister for comfort and encouragement, a face-turning slap. It really was a bit cruel. That's a lot of crying emotes, my goodness. Shenjing Zhou was filled with both deep compassion as well as a feeling that this was extremely absurd. What could be more absurd than discovering that the person from whom you'd exhaustively plotted to flee, and had intended to flee from for so many years, hadn't actually wanted to kill you at all, but wanted to do you instead? Though whether the desire was to kill or to fuck, the reason was the same. Shenjing Zhou would still run away with all his might. Because I know how this plays out, it's fine. It's fine, no spoilers, but No spoilers, but they fuck in the end. No way. Oh my god. One party wanted to meet, but couldn't, and so had clung to a corpse for 5 years. The other party avoided the first like the plague, but still felt like he ran into him a great deal. Yes. Shen Qingzhou's hands were stiff as he raised and lowered them, clenching them and relaxed. In the end, he let out a sigh anyway and patted that head above his. Fuck, I've really lost, he thought. Right now, forget about the harem, a perfectly fine, dark, and vicious stallion novel male lead was very possibly still a virgin. Luo Binghe had already put himself in such a state, so it would have been rather inhumane of Shen Qingzhou to shove another knife in. In the end, Shen Qingzhou lost to the deeply tragic act Luo Binghe had sold him, as well as his own sense of sympathy. Luo Binghe instantly clutched the hand of his. Shen Qingzhou felt that the skin on Luo Binghe's palm, which was pressing into the back of his hand, was uneven. When he looked closer, he realized it was a sword scar. At first, Shen Qingzhou didn't understand why there were so many scars on Luo Binghe's body, but then he suddenly remembered. During their night encounter in Jinlan City, for a stretch, Luo Binghe had played cat and mouse with him. When Shen Qingzhou was caught, he had stabbed at Luo Binghe, and Luo Binghe had caught Shuya's blade point squarely in his hand. As for the wound on his chest and close to his heart, Shen Qingzhou had even less of an excuse for forgetting that. It was from the Immortal Alliance conference. While forcing Luo Binghe to fall, Shen Qingzhou had accidentally stabbed him. It seemed like every time he tried to stab Luo Binghe, the latter had never avoided the strike and had instead always received it head-on, neither dodging nor evading, letting him hack away. Because of this, Shen Qingzhou had stabbed him twice, despite not wishing to either time. Furthermore, after being pierced by his blade, Luo Binghe hadn't healed either wound and instead had purposefully preserved them. Only a short while ago, Shen Qingzhou could have matter-of-factly believed that Luo Binghe was nursing a grudge and keeping the scars to remind himself that his hatred at any time. But now Shen Qingzhou could no longer deceive himself about the exact meaning of these actions. He had finished reading the hugely long original novel and raised his child to adulthood, but he'd never realized that Luo Binghe was actually a pure-hearted young man. And as the deeply emotional stallion had turned gay, the stallion part had actually been summarily dropped. This Luo Binghe, who'd been bent to heavens, knew whereby his rearing, I don't know if that is a sentence. I'm so confused. Possessed a heart both masochistic and easy to harm, more delicate than a young maiden's. Or maybe it wasn't that Shen Qingzhou had never realized it, but that he never thought to understand. When all was said and done, he had still regarded Luo Binghe as a character in a novel and adopted an attitude that he was something to constantly observe and occasionally mess around with. Most of the time, he'd kept himself at a respectful distance, and Luo Binghe, who'd had the strongest presence in the original work, had ended up suffering most of Shen Qingzhou's assumptions about tropes and story formulas. Faced with this true Luo Binghe, Shen Qingzhou felt it was all extraordinarily troublesome, and he truly was at a loss for what to do. He was still racking his brain for solutions, so from his angle, he couldn't see the hint of a twisted smile lifting the corner of Luo Binghe's mouth. We love a manipulative motherfucker. We love it. That's the end of the chapter. The next chapter is called. Oh god, you don't even know. You'll know why I'm so excited. The next chapter is called Juji. I love him. I love him. I love him. We probably won't finish this next chapter, but we might. Honestly, it's pretty short. But yes, that is on page 265. I will take a short little ad break to just get around, jump up and down. No, I'm not gonna jump. To move around, get up and move around, and maybe like refreshing my tea a little bit. But yeah, 3 minutes max. All right, I'll see you in just a minute. I lied. In just 3 minutes. All right, cat go walkies. Exactly. All right, BRB. So I'm a liar. I guess I took a little bit longer than I I said. Just kidding. But it's okay. We're all patient, aren't we? I don't know. I just want to be punctual, you know? I lost it. I'm losing it. You know who's losing it? This Shen Qingzhou guy is kind of losing it. You need it. Yeah, we know this. What's new? Okay. Zhuji spelled Zhuzi. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love him. 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 You'll find out who him is in a second. Okay. Sneakies. I'm okay sometimes. What the hell? No, I'm not. That's a lie. That's a complete lie, but it's fine. And that's okay. Chapter 12. After waking, Shen Qingzhou opened his eyes to see a gauzy snow-white canopy above him. Someone pushed open the door and walked in, then lightly closed the door behind them. Are you awake? Shen Qingzhou rotated his neck back and forth, then looked at the asker out of the corner of his eye. Under the light of the lantern, which was warmer than the light of the moon, the young man's looks were indeed good. The corner of his mouth held a smile. His appearance was peerlessly clever and handsome. His eyes especially exuded a kind of gentle and quick-witted air. He'd seen this pair of eyes before. They were eyes that had been nurtured by the dew lake. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. When Shen Qingzhou rolled into a seated position, a bag of ice fell from his forehead. The man stooped to retrieve it and put it back on the table, then replaced it with a new bag for him. Upon seeing this, Shen Qingzhou was too embarrassed to voice all the "Who are yous?" and "What do you want?" he'd been holding within himself. Coughing once, he said in a reserved tone, "Many thanks for your assistance at Huanhua Palace." The young man stood by the table and smiled. Humans have a saying, a drop of kindness should be repaid by a flood. Moreover, the kindness from immortal Master Shen far exceeded a drop. First of all, this gentleman was indeed that snake man from Bailu Forest. Second of all, this gentleman knew that the person inside this shell, was Shen Qingzhou. Is my tea warm, cool enough to drink? Yeah, it's good. Tianlang Jun? Shen Qingzhou asked probingly. The reason why that ancient line of heavenly demons was called heavenly was because, according to legend, their bloodline had fallen from the heavenly realm and become demons. Only a heavenly demon with a lineage purer than Lo Binghe's could suppress the blood within Shen Qingzhou's body. In that case, a problem arose. Of the heavenly demon lineage, Shen Qingzhou knew of only two who had been named in the original work: Lo Binghe and his dad. Who else could he guess? Daddy! Oh no! But such things only came in threes. At this juncture, Shen Qingzhou's super unique riddle-solving method, which had succeeded every time to date, finally hit a wall. The man shook his head. Immortal Master Shen, taking me for my lord is truly an excessive honor. When Shen Qingzhou heard that "my lord," he finally figured out which character this person was. By the time of the original work's prologue, Tianlang Jun had already been subjugated and imprisoned underneath a high mountain. However, that grand battle of many years past had little to do with the male lead's overpowered and stallion ways, and thus airplane shooting towards the sky had but roughly covered the affair. He said that only Tianlang Jun was no match for the was no match for the combined siege of numerous top cultivators of the human realm, and he was imprisoned beneath XX Mountain, never to be free again, his trusted right hand separated from him by injury or death. Which mountain was XX Mountain again? Exactly? Exactly. Shen Jingzhou had never properly considered this question, but once his curiosity was piqued, he finally realized which one it was. Bailu Mountain. Bailu Forest on Bailu Mountain. Shen Jingzhou looked the man up and down. So this was the trusted right hand of Luo Binghe's father. But looking at him now, he could find no trace of that snake man's deformed figure from their first encounter. Shen Jingzhou swallowed. May I venture to ask this distinguished gentleman, what is your name? Tianlang Jun's subordinate, Zhu Lang, the man said courteously. The words had only just left his mouth when the system gave a notification. Increased degree of storyline completion and filled in hidden character list. B points plus 300. Activated plot hole filling event. B points plus 100. A burst of uncontainable excitement suddenly welled up inside of Shen Jingzhou. Plot hole filling definitely referred to those atrocities which perpetrators had never been identified, leaving the reader defrauded and without leads, as well as the buggy setting details in the original work. This was precisely one of the greatest reasons, in parentheses, that Shen Yuan had disdained proud immortal demon Wei. It was also a major reason why he'd been beating his chest, stomping his feet, and gnashing his teeth after finishing the novel. Now he'd drawn out a character who had never directly appeared on stage, and the system had opened a plot hole filling opportunity. Could it be that next he'd finally uncover the truth behind those giant plot holes ripping through the sky? I saved you once, then you saved me once. We're even now, said Shen Jingzhou. The saved you once he spoke of referred to the time he'd stopped Gong Yizhao from killing the snake man. But Zhu Lang shook his head. There's more to it than that. If not for immortal Master Shen, I'm afraid that even after many more years, I still wouldn't have been able to approach the Sun Moon Dew mushroom. How could you say we're already even? This sounded perfect to Shen Jingzhou. All right then, let's discuss. Can't you just extract both influences from my blood? Must you let them remain? It was as if there had been a parasite within his body, and the doctor's approach to treatment had been to place another parasite inside him to fight it. From every angle imaginable, his situation had only worsened. This humble one's first time utilizing heavenly demon blood, said Zhu Lang. I've never even heard of a means by which to dispel it. Though this was disappointing, Shen Jingzhou still expressed his understanding. The blood had entered his body and dissolved without a trace, so separating it out again truly wasn't especially feasible. Though it cannot be dispelled, as long as this one's blood is also in immortal Master Shen's body, the other heavenly demon blood will be ineffective, Zhu Lang said. After we go to the demon realm, the tracking function will fail, and he will be absolutely unable to torment you any longer. Wait. Hold on. When did I say that I wanted to go to the demon realm? Asked Shen Jingzhou. We're going very soon, said Zhu Lang. Shen Jingzhou examined his expression. The repayment you spoke of, it wouldn't happen to be taking me there. Why go to the demon realm at all? It was short on supplies and natural resources. The culture and customs were incompatible with his, and the environment wouldn't suit him either. In addition, more urgent worries were still piled up in his forebrain. For one, there was his brain's new trauma-driven meltdown courtesy of Luo Binghe's near necrophiliac behavior, and for another, he'd let Lu Qingge run off with his original body. What if Lobinka exterminated Sangchong Mountain in a fit of anger? Shen Jingzhou had to get there before him and notify his comrades. He swiftly tossed the covers aside, planning to run away, but unexpectedly, just as he began to move, he felt something slimy, soft, and icy cold slither up his leg. The jade-green snake lazily poked its head out from beneath the covers and flicked a scarlet tongue toward Shen Jingzhou with a hiss. This snake was 3 fingers thick, and at first glance it resembled a venomous bamboo viper of the human realm. Its eye sockets were horribly large, while its pupils were disturbingly small, a ghastly contrast. But Shen Jingzhou wasn't afraid of this sort of soft-bodied animal. Regarding it coolly, he stealthily gathered energy in the palm of his hand, intending to catch it off guard and blow off 7 inches of its body. Suddenly, the jade-green snake reared back, its red mouth gaping open. It was merely a snake, but from its mouth came a shriek as ear-piercing as a human's. At the same time, a dense layer of countless green spikes exploded around its head like a blossoming flower. The sharp tips were suffused with scarlet, obviously poisonous even at a glance, and the snake's body also inflated several times larger, as if it had been pumped full of air. Ew. Just a moment ago it could have been considered a cute, dainty, ornamental snake, but now it was a real fucking monster. The breeds of the demon realm were verily savage. Shen Jingzhou promptly dispelled any thought of touching it with his hands. Zhu Jilang poured out a cup of tea. Immortal Master Shen, why would you try to leave before I finished my explanation? He asked cordially as he placed the cup on the table. This one sincerely wishes to repay you for not killing him in Bailu Forest. You even went so far as to assist him. Shen Jingzhou chewed on his lip for a bit. Oh, jeez. You want me to go to the demon realm, and when I don't want to, you put this thing on my bed. Is this your idea of repayment? Zhu Jilang smiled. Not only in your bed. I love him. Another small snake, the width of a thumb, slid out from Shen Jingzhou's clothes. This snake had been coiled in his robes all along. Warned by his body temperature, it had been nesting comfortably, not moving an inch, so Shen Jingzhou hadn't even noticed its presence. With an endless hiss, a flood of countless green snakes of various widths and sizes slithered out from under the bed, carpeting the whole floor. Eehee, so many snakies! Aha, I love snakies! Shen Jingzhou was silent for a long while until he said, The snake race? My father was from the southern border, Zhu Jilang said calmly. No wonder his name was thus. The demon race placed a great deal of importance on social class and lineage. Common demons, or demons of lowly lineages, could not append Jun to their name. This title was a suffix representing one's social status, similar to how the emperor's name was taboo and couldn't be infringed upon. The reason Lobinka's path to ascension was slightly rocky in the original work was because the demon lords took issue with him being of mixed human blood. In the early stages of the demon realm arc, Lobinka had done in quite a few characters named in the fashion of XX Lang. Therefore, Shen Jingzhou had concluded that while names with this suffix weren't necessarily all from the slums, their origins couldn't be especially esteemed either. Zhu Jilang, undoubtedly, belonged to the heavenly demon bloodline, but he couldn't take the title of Jun. This issue was evidently due to his mixed heritage. The snake race resided in the southern border of the demon realm. Strictly speaking, they still counted as part of the demon race, but their true forms took on the appearance of giant snakes. They were born in this form, and as they grew in age and cultivation, a terribly small number would over time shed their scales and take on a human appearance. But even more stayed in the shape of a snake for their entire lives. Who is your mother? asked Shen Qingzhou. Tianlang Jun's younger sister, said Zhuji Lang. Tianlang Jun's younger sister counted as something like the demon race's princess. How foolhardy was she that out of all of our options, she had to have a child with a snake? Way too fucking hardcore. I mean, two penises. Anatomy. As Shen Qingzhou endured those two snakes creeping around his leg and stomach, he asked, "So you're technically Luo Bingke's senior cousin? I say, can't you tell these fellows to not slither into my clothes?" "If by senior one only means older, that can certainly be said to be true," Zhuji Lang said. "As they seem awfully fond of immortal Master Shen, there's nothing this one can do." He's so silly. He's so silly. Who the hell would believe there's nothing you could do? Shen Qingzhou bore with it to ask, "Why were you at Huanhua Palace?" "Originally, I went to take care of official business, and I never thought I'd see immortal Master Shen," Zhuji Lang said with great patience. Shen Qingzhou's heart thumped. "Official business? This official business you speak of, what the fuck? Does it have to do with Luo Bingke? To offer an alliance and rule jointly as overlords, or had there been a falling out within the demon race? Or maybe it had been for a heartbreaking demon family's reunion after many years' separation, overcome by tears of emotion." That whole line was in quotations. Like a title. Stupid. This time, Zhuji Lang smiled and didn't answer. "I fear this official business wasn't as heartwarming as reconnecting relatives," said Shen Qingzhou. "This one was only obeying his lord's orders," Zhuji Lang said, unhurried. "This body of yours, was it sculpted from the sun, moon, dew mushroom?" asked Shen Qingzhou. If Zhuji Lang... he's so cute. If Zhuji Lang had used that one sprout for himself, it would make things easier. If he hadn't used it for himself, then it was possible that he'd used it to sculpt a body for Tianlang Jun. Tianlang Jun had been imprisoned under a mountain, hanging on by a single breath, for many, many years, and his original body was likely long ruined. But if like a cicada, he shed his carapace? Shen Qingzhou really couldn't guess what sort of waves would result. He had an uneasy premonition that his own careless flutter of butterfly wings had released something monumental. Oh no. Having received no reply, his mind couldn't settle down, and he continued, "Is taking me to the demon realm another one of your lord's orders?" Whenever a question touched upon the subject of Tianlang Jun, Zhuji Lang clamped up and refused to answer, offering nothing but a polite smile. It was truly infuriating. Only when Shen Qingzhou finally withdrew in defeat did he open his mouth, retaining his usual refined and courteous manner. "Rest well, immortal Master Shen. If there is anything you need, please say so, and I will certainly handle it for you. We will depart for the borderlands tomorrow at the latest." Exhausted from all the talking, Shen Qingzhou asked, "Do you have money?" "Yes," Zhuji Lang responded. "Can I use it?" "As you wish." "I want woman." Zhuji Lang stopped, staring blankly. "Wasn't it you who said that if there was anything I needed, I should tell you, and to feel free to do as I wished? I want woman," Shen Qingzhou repeated. "Get rid of the snakes." A small crack finally opened in Zhuji Lang's smiling expression. After a while, he did as instructed. Shen Qingzhou hummed a laugh and tried to get off the bed. He threw on his outer robes and tidied his clothing. For some time, Zhuji Lang seemed to be hesitating, wavering over whether to follow, but when Shen Qingzhou stepped out the door, he tagged along after. As Peak Lord of Qingjing Peak, Shen Jingzhou had been obligated to be mindful of his image. Though 1,000 curiosities had gripped his heart, he'd cleaved to the tent that brothels were not to be entered. What? He cleaved to the tenant that brothels were not to be entered. But now he had the opportunity. Shen Jingzhou acted as though his Zhujilang-shaped shadow didn't exist, and after strolling through the streets once, he picked the red warm pavilion for its more hospitable appearance. He strode in, expression utterly at ease. Before long, Shen Jingzhou was surrounded by brightly colored decorations, his nostrils assailed by the scent of talcum powder. Zhujilang took a seat beside him at the round table, as motionless as Mount Tai. Oh, he's so cute. Oh my god, he's so fucking cute. What's with that look on your face? Asked Shen Jingzhou. Zhujilang averted his eyes. It's just, I'm a bit surprised that immortal Master Shen would actually be interested in this place of prostitution. Wait a minute, you'll see what I'm interested in, said Shen Jingzhou. As he spoke, a new songstress leisurely walked up from the side. She was somewhat older, and the cosmetics she wore were also quite colorful. She sat on the flower stool while cradling a pipa before meeting eyes with Shen Jingzhou and startling, briefly. Not comprehending, Shen Jingzhou nodded at her. Miss? The songstress snapped out of it. My apologies, sir, she said with an easy smile. Your appearance is excellent and reminded me of this servant of an old... What? And reminded this servant of an old acquaintance. My eyes deceive me. Oh, there's an illustration on this page, but I don't think this is the moment to bring it up yet. Oh, they're so fucking cute. When she had said her piece, she lowered her head and didn't mention anything further. Then, with a few plucks and strums, she began to sing. At first, Shen Jingzhou had whispered into the ears of the girls next to him, not bothering to listen to the music. But after catching a couple of phrases, he suddenly felt that he'd heard two incredibly unbelievable things. He called for the songstress to stop. Miss, what is this you're singing? This servant is singing the popular new ballad, Regret of Chunshan, the woman said with a delicate voice. Footnote, Chunshan literally translates to Spring Mountain, while Chinese character can imply resentment, hatred, and or regret, depending on context. Since the story seems to be about Luo Binghe's despair after over losing Shen Jingzhou as told by the brothel ladies, regret seems closest to the intended meaning, though this is narrower than the original Chinese. I'm really confused. What? Okay. Okay. I think I can bring up the illustration now. Hang on. Give me a second. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Not that one. There we go. There we go. Here 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 we go. Is this the last illustration of the book? Wait a sec. Oh no. Yes? No. Almost. Wait a second. Who are you? They're so cute. Look at my boy. Look at Chuchilang. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's so cute and nervous. Oh my god, I fucking love this. Anyway. The pipa player smiled behind her sleeve. Nope, I skipped a line. Hold on. That's odd, Shen Jingzhou said, his face full of black lines. Just now I seem to have heard you sing two names. Could you repeat those? The pipa player smiled behind her sleeve. What's odd about it? Could it be that you've never heard it before, sir? The leading characters in Regret of Chunshan have always been Shen Jingzhou and Luo Binghe. We have canon fan fiction. Ellipses, ellipses, ellipses. When did we get fucking turned into a popular ballad? Zhujilong had originally been refusing all services, quietly sitting to the side and pretending to be the air itself, but he unfortunately exposed himself when his shoulders faintly shook. Could I ask, this regret of whatever mountain, what story does it tell? Asked Shen Qingqiu. Several women next to him spoke with chirping voices. Sir, don't you even know that? Regret of Chunshan tells of the poignant sentiments between Shen Qingqiu and his beloved disciple, Luo Binghe, the unspeakable and taboo. Shen Qingqiu forced himself to listen from start to end in a petrified state. To summarize the plot, in short, this was a shameless master and disciple pair who spent all day on some nameless mountain, ignoring their duties, to knock boots, who went down the mountain to fight monsters and take trips to Pound Town, who used 2-person push-ups to settle misunderstandings, who still needed to play a round of hide the sausage before dying, who continued to ride the Bony Express after death, and who, after resurrection, would still gleefully smack each other's salmons as before. Sort of story. Those are some euphemisms. I have to say, this is very creative. My goodness. My goodness. The pipa player sighed faintly, plucking a string with her fingertip. Having never understood the affection in the other's heart and life and lying with the body in death, this manner of abiding love is truly matchless in this age. All the women followed up with incessant sighs and sobs, some already beginning to shed tears of emotion. Shen Qingqiu buried his head deep into his hands. Damn it, isn't this just some fucking porn? Who wrote these lyrics? What mountain is Chunshan? Qingjing Peak? Sangchong Mountain? Sangchong Mountain sect's gonna wipe out your entire family in a minute flat, okay? What the fuck just happened? Sorry, my Chrome did a thing where it went black for a second, and that was interesting. Are we okay? Are we still good? We should be good. Okay. Bruh. Okay. Exactly how was this gossip's reach so wide that not only had it infested the borderlands, even the over-the-top porn in bookshops was milking it for content, as if he and Luo Binghe had been caught rolling in the sheets in front of the whole world. Oh no. Zhujilong let out a chuckle and turned. Master Shen, are you interested in this ballad? Shen Qingqiu looked up at him coldly. Zhujilong hurriedly corrected the expression on his face, but he still struggled to hold it in. It would be best if I removed myself for a bit, he said. However, just as he was about to get up, his movements slowed, and he froze in his seat. Shen Qingqiu observed his expression and smiled. What? Finally starting to feel unwell? Standing up, he shook out his robes, and the green snakes that had been curled against his chest fell to the ground with a splat, rolling over to show their yellow bellies. The woman in the hall began to scream, and the pipa player flung her instrument away altogether. We can put this away now. All together. Okay. Holding his forehead, Zhujilong stood while supporting himself against the table, swaying back and forth. Staring at Shen Qingqiu, he raised his hand again. He raised his right hand and grabbed a handful of the little snakes that had slithered forth from his sleeve, but they remained twined between his fingers, entirely impotent. Zhujilong shook his head and said weakly, Rilgar. For a while, without his notice, the entire brothel had been soaked in the scent of Rilgar wine. Top quality Rilgar wine, Shen Qingqiu said approvingly. All purchased with your money, by the way. His assistants didn't need to be superhuman. What? Yeah, that's the line. With a couple of whispers, the brothel girls accepted Shenjingcho's money and secretly purchased the entire town's stash of Realgar wine, then placed it all around the warm red pavilion and fanned the fumes as it boiled. After it boiled all night, no member of the snake tribe would be able to resist swooning under its influence. Judilang's guard might have been up, but he'd been aiming to prevent Shen Jingzhou from contacting other cultivators, not these brothel girls. In the end, he'd been too careless. When Judilang raised his head, the whites of his eyes had turned gold, his pupils elongated into slits at the speed visible to the naked eye. His face had also begun to change shape. Shen Jingzhou quickly opened the door. "Aren't you going to leave?" he asked the prostitutes huddled and shivering in the corner. The woman immediately began fighting to run outside. The pipa player was last, her movements deft. Shen Jingzhou stuffed a bag of silver in her stash, compensation for her pipa. Is it pipa or pipa? Then closed the door behind them. When he turned around again, where Jujilang had once stood, a giant jade green serpent was coiled, its body thick enough to be encircled by 3 men with their arms outstretched. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. Hello? The giant serpent's head was enormous and triangular, its large yellow eyes like copper bells, its pupils the finest of lines. It seemed dizzy, like its thin neck was unable to hold up its heavy head, which kept drooling. The Realgar wine's effect had exceeded Shen Jingzhou's expectations. It had forced Jujilang to reveal his original form. Now this was a bit of a headache for Shen Jingzhou. He picked up a nearby folding fan that someone had abandoned and snapped it open, giving it a couple of waves. The giant serpent slithered toward him and looped around him twice, as if to wrap him up, but Shen Jingzhou easily jumped free. The giant serpent roiled and twined, then burst out of the building like it was drunk, crashing down into the middle of the street and alarming the passerby, which screamed and fled in all directions. Shen Jingzhou followed it down from the upper floor and shouted, "Going outside is useless. The entire town is filled with the smell of Realgar wine." A piercing shriek erupted from the giant serpent's mouth. It shook its head and thrashed its tail in its spot on the road. Shen Jingzhou decided to draw it away from the places with large volumes of people, and he flew to leap onto the serpent's head. Wherever it moved in the wrong direction, or was about to crash into a passerby or residence, Shen Jingzhou jabbed the side of its head with his fan. The serpent's scales were like armor, and they made a great rumbling sound as it slithered over the ground. Ooh, ooh. Shen Jingzhou often had to pour large amounts of spiritual energy into the fan before he could make the snake change direction. In this manner, he just barely managed to pilot it toward the edge of town. After taking his money, the brothel girls had done their job with everything they had. No one could say how much Realgar wine they'd boiled. Carried by the wind, the smell drifted far and wide. Even after finally arriving at the foot of the nearby mountain, it still continued to waft toward them from uphill. The giant serpent was overwhelmed by the smell to the point of agony, and moreover, Shen Jingzhou had jabbed, poked, and ridden it all the way here. Exhausted and spent, it could no longer move. In universe not safe for work, RPF ballad about me would make me want to return to the mushroom pit. I don't know, it's kind of fun. Mushroom pit. Deciding they were far enough away from the city, Shen Jingzhou finally jumped down. The giant serpent was weak and dispirited. Its head sagged while its body was coiled like a meandering mountain road. That's cute. That's a cute image. What the hell? Although I am very interested in filling in plot holes, I have no interest in emigrating to the demon realm, said Shen Jingzhou. Besides, I already have enough on my plate to drive me mad. Since you can't remove the heavenly demon blood, you can forget about the repayment or whatever. Su Ji Lang. Goodbye. He said his name wrong. Su Ji. Did he? Oh my god. It has a footnote. Shen Jingzhou's nickname for Zhu Lang is also a jelly brand in China. Zhi. Wait, I just realized it would be Zhu instead of Ji, right? I've been saying Zhu because it's cute. Because I think it's cute. But it might be Zhu. Anyway. Shen Jingzhou was incredibly afraid that once the wine's effect dissipated, Zhu Lang would return to his original form and release another torrent of snakes to ensnare him, so he ran like the wind. Once he reached the next sizable city, he found an eminently reliable chain store and rented a flying sword. Screw the writer, I think this is cute. Yeah, but it is cute. It's more like screw the language. Is this disrespect to the language? Uh-oh. But it's so cute. In my head, I've always, because this is my first Don May I've ever read. So I didn't know like proper Chinese pronunciation yet. And so I always called him like Zuzi, right? Because I didn't realize the J, it's a J. So it's now just Juji. It's you don't get it. No. Anyway, he rented a flying sword. You mean you didn't read the whole language to read your free L? For shame. For shame. I do want to learn a little bit of Chinese. It'll be fun. Yes, that's right. He really rented one. Just like rental cars, immortal swords could be rented, and the prices were entirely fair and reasonable. That's convenient. Basically, he was still using Zhu Lang's money, so Shen Jingzhou pressed both hands together and gave thanks to this benevolent brother. Then he sped off towards Sangcheng Mountain Sect by sword. After no more than half a day, a continuous, rolling jade-green mountain range with 12 peaks of irregular heights appeared from within the sea of clouds and mist. It's been a while, Sangcheng Mountain. Two characters rose to his mind as he thought that Chunshan. Shen Jingzhou silently crossed them out. End of chapter. Ooh, is this the last chapter? Oh my god, wait, no, the next chapter is so short and that means it's gonna be the end. The next chapter is 20 pages. Should I just try to finish it today? That's a lot of chapters, and I'd usually just stop now, but I love this book. No. I don't want to have a short first stream of the first short. You know what? It's okay. Yeah, you're right. It is about an hour of reading. It would just be like a half reading session, I guess. There's really not a lot left. And one of the pages is an illustration. Hee. I might just finish it. Let me do a stretch. Ugh. Yeah. Glug, real. yeah, you get me. You get me. My guy. Okay. Ooh. Sorry. Can I help you? Every time my AC turns on, it sounds like a door is opening, and it kind of freaks me out a tiny little bit. Just a tiny little bit. Okay. Shall we finish it? Shall we finish it, actually? What? Okay. Let's fucking it seems like a lot more because there's like the extra, like the glossary and like the extra illustrations and stuff. Oh my god, I love them! But it's not a lot. Like 19 pages. 18. Chapter 13 is called Coercion. Coercion. On page 283. 283. And ends on 302. Yeah. Yeah, 20 pages. Okay. An air defense barrier surrounded the periphery of Sangchong Mountain Sect. Immortal swords, not of the sect, could not enter without prior notice, and those entering without authorization would be knocked off course. Thus Shen Qingzhou stopped at the foot of the mountain and sent the flying sword back, using the chance to change his clothes and procure a bamboo hat to wear. Cultivators often passed through the little village at the foot of the mountain, yet today he didn't see many. Shen Jingzhou was just beginning to find it strange when someone asked, "This immortal master, is he heading up to Sangchong Mountain Sect?" Shen Jingzhou nodded. That person continued, "Surely going right now isn't a good idea." Shen Jingzhou's heart tightened. "What do you mean? It isn't good?" That person and a few others looked at each other. "You still don't know?" they asked. "This mountain has been under siege for 2 days." As Shen Jingzhou passed through the gates and climbed the tall staircase, he failed to encounter a single disciple on watch. The ominous premonition in Shen Jingzhou's heart grew stronger and stronger. He leapt up multiple steps at once, dashing upward. The farther up he went, the clearer it became that in many stretches of the sky above Chongding Peak, thick black smoke roiled, intermingled with the flash of lightning and crash of thunder. The summit of the summit of Chongding Peak was an absolute mess. The mountain forests in flames, the ground littered with icicles, the eaves of roofs collapsed and destroyed like they'd been through multiple brutal battles. Outside Chongding Hall, two distinct factions faced each other. On one side were the human cultivators, some standing and some on the ground, while Mu Qingfang shuttled busily back and forth between them. On the other side, there were demon soldiers in black armor, a dense legion, with an awe-inspiring presence. Though there seemed to be a temporary ceasefire, the moment someone drew their sword, even a mote, the tension that drifted in the air like gunpowder would reignite. It looked like Luo Binghe was no longer bothering to hide his identity, and Shen Jingzhou was not surprised. Luo Binghe's bloodline, revealed in the original work, had been around this time as well. His momentum as he climbed to the top of demonkind was, by this point, unstoppable. And he had already thoroughly brainwashed Huanhua Palace, reshaping them until they were perfectly submissive to him. With his footing secured, he, of course, no longer needed to be secretive. The only difference between this formal shedding of pretenses and the scenario in the original were the setting and the synopsis. Although the disciples on the peaks had to wear uniforms, there were also many acclaimed cultivators who weren't subject to these restrictions, and so no one paid particular attention to Shen Jingzhou's out-of-place attire. He squeezed his way through the crowd until he was standing before the hall entrance and peered inside. Yue Qingyuan sat there with his eyes closed while Lu Qingge stood behind him, palm pressed against his back. The ripples of spiritual energy surrounded their bodies seemed rather unstable. In all likelihood, neither of their situations were good. Shen Jingzhou had finally reunited with his Jiangman Shishong, an unfortunate Shidi, only to find them in such a sorry state. A state that he'd put them into. Guilt welled within Shen Jingzhou's heart, but when he turned again, his breath stuttered. Lo Bingke was standing at the door. What? Lo Bingke was standing at the other side of the great hall, a heavy air around him. He was wearing black, which made his skin shine translucently pale in comparison. His eyes were dark as pitch, but also blisteringly bright, and his expression was cold and dispassionate, yet the air around him struck a fearful unrest in others. Mo Beijun stood behind him. Though it was the position of a deputy, his head was slightly raised like an ice statue to whom haughtiness was second nature. Mo Beijun mentioned! Mo Beijun mentioned! I want to kiss his face. I love him. I love him so much. I love him so much. I love him. Ye Qingyuan suddenly opened his eyes. Who say it? Okay. Zhengmen Xishang, are you all right? Qi Qingqi asked worriedly. Ye Qingyuan shook his head, then looked up at Lo Bingke. In the past, when the demon race attacked Sangchong Mountain, your distinguished self made them head on as part of the resistance, while your Shizun protected the entirety of Chongding Peak alone. I never thought that you'd be the one leading the demon race to push Sangchong Mountain into such straits. If your sect hadn't pushed me so far, I wouldn't want to do the same, Lo Bingke said indifferently. Qi Qingqi was so enraged that she ended up laughing instead. Sangchong Mountain has pushed you too far. The entire world should come hear this, even if we put aside the matter of you being an ungrateful wretch who betrayed your sect. You forced your own Shizun to self-detonate in front of you. Then you clung to him even after his death, doing heaven knows what with his body. And now you strike back at us with false accusations? So, just who is going too far? Lo Bingke turned a deaf ear to her taunts. Who's next? He asked apathetically. I'm taking this name. What the fuck? Who's next? He asked apathetically. I'm taking his nameplate. Shen Jingzhou startled and looked up. The nameplate Lo Bingke spoke of was the horizontal plaque hanging high outside Chongding Hall. The two characters on it, Sangchong, had been personally inscribed by the founder of Sangchong Mountain Sect. After so many years, it held extraordinary significance, and it was equivalent to a slice of Sangchong Mountain's dignity. Likewise, taking this inscription would be the equivalent of slapping Sangchong Mountain across the face. Back when Sha Hualing had impudently led an army to surround Chongding Peak, her goal had been to take the same nameplate back to the demon realm to show it off. If you want to fight, then fight, said Qi Qingqi. First you burned down one of our abodes, next you destroyed a gate, and now you're here to take this nameplate? What are your intentions? To torment us methodically bit by bit, and refuse us a swift release? Qi Shimei, let it be, Ye Qingyuan said as he stood. Though he was at a disadvantage, his expression was as steady as Mount Tai, so as not to undermine his troops' morale. Qingshou Shidi's immortal body has already been placed inside the hall. He is of my Sangchong Mountain, and more importantly, of Qingjing Peak. After he passes, he must be interred among the graves of this generation of Qingjing Peak lords to rest in peace. Unless you slaughter the entirety of Sangchong Mountain, so long as anyone in this sect has a single breath left to breathe, regardless of how long it takes, Qingshou Shidi's body will never again fall into your hands. Qingyuan. Oh boy, he makes me sad. Exactly so, many of the others present chorused simultaneously. Shen Jingzhou had known that they would adopt this sort of attitude. It was precisely because he knew Sangchong Mountain would do anything to protect that body of his that he'd had to come back. The corner of Lo Bingke's mouth tugged up into an icy cold smile. He lowered his head and said in a measured tone, I won't do anything to Sangchong Mountain personally, and I won't kill a single member of Sangchong Mountain sect. But what I have is plenty of time. Time to stall you out. Those 3 words, stall you out, one by one, resounded clearly within Shen Qingzhou's ears. Suddenly, his entire heart sank. Luo Binghe was not the kind of person to engage in polite debate. When he was at an absolute advantage in terms of pure power, he was declined to feign civility. And if there was a sect he wanted something from, he would employ the most direct and effective approach, bathe the sect in blood, slaughter all comers, and take the desired object away. Yet in this case, Luo Binghe had possessed the patience to stall for 2 days thus far. It moreover didn't seem like he'd been taken by a carefree mood, but rather like he was waiting for something. For example, waiting for Shen Qingzhou himself to appear. Shen Qingzhou tightened his fist. Attack, said Luo Binghe. Mo Beijun let out an "oh" and stepped forward. Just an "oh." Okay, before suddenly saying, I already have, many times. All of those exploded ice shards, those holes pitting the walls and ground around the hall were his great works. Then get someone else to attack in your place, said Luo Binghe. Mo Beijun nodded. Did I mention this was an ensemble episode? Mo Beijun nodded, reached behind himself, and scooped up a cowering figure. He dangled this person like a little chick and tossed him into the large empty space between the 2 sides with a plop. I fucking love them! I love them so much! I love them so fucking much! Anyway. Shang Qinghua's soul was about to fly away. He crawled to his feet in terror, and when the people of Sangchong Mountain saw him, fire nearly spewed from their eyes. It wasn't just them. Shen Qingzhou was about to spew raging flames from his eyes and mouth. That trouble-causing fucker. Great master. Airplane shooting towards the sky. Fuck. Qi Qingchu drew her sword with a whoosh and yelled, Traitor! Shang Qinghua smiled. What the fuck? Obsequiously. What the fuck? Chishime, if you have something to say, say it properly. Don't wave your sword around like that. You're so pretty. If you were only a bit gentler. This fucking bitch. I want her to stab him just for that. Oh my god. Qi Qingqi had already sent her sword flying in his direction, yelling in rage. Who's your Shimei? Shang Qinghua hurriedly dodged, hiding behind Mo Beijun. Devoid of sympathy, Mo Beijun kicked him right back out. I was forced against my will. Don't be like this, Shang Qinghua said with a long-suffering look. If anyone sees us comrades fighting amongst ourselves, we'll be ridiculed. Shen Qingzhou was flabbergasted. Shang Qinghua truly had even less integrity than he had imagined. To be able to say something like that now, it was genuinely a bit shameless. Who's your comrade? Qi Qingqi yelled. You let demonic beasts into the Immortal Alliance conference. Do you think of how the dead and injured Sangchong Mountain sect disciples were your comrades? You turned traitor and became the demon race's dog. Did you think of how we're your comrades? You fought up the mountain with the devil himself today, and you have the face to call us comrades? The two of them chased each other around the hall in what was basically a screwball slapstick scene. Shen Qingzhou watched from the side, his heart rising and falling along with it. Chop, chop, chop. Oh, fuck. Almost got him. Qi Qingqi, go for the crotch. Awesome. I love. Lu Qingge withdrew the spiritual energy he was feeding into Yue Qingyuan's back. Having finished the stabilization, he stood. Cheng Luan trembled in its sheath. letting out a buzzing cry. Young Yichuan! It even has Young Yichuan! It even has Young Yichuan. Young Yichuan cupped his fist. Shizun, you've been fighting that demon for an entire day. Stand down, Lu Qingge said heavily. Luo Binghe gave him a glance, then smiled and said lightly, Ah, the loser I defeated. Though not loud, each word was enunciated clearly, the pitch rising, and so everyone in the large hall could hear. Lu Qingge's hand tightened on his sword, his eyes sparkling with electric current. Nothing could humiliate the Baijian Peak Lord more than the word loser. Yang Yijuan's temper flared as he shot back. Demon mongrel! Luo Binghe didn't take it to heart. Yes, I am a mongrel. The entirety of Sangchong Mountain was overwhelmed by a mongrel. Glorious, isn't it? And not just Chongding Peak. I can conquer each of the remaining peaks one by one. Let everyone in the realms know that Sangchong Mountain, the leader of the cultivation world, was slaughtered by a mongrel, powerless to fight back. How about it?
Oh, he's so sexy.
Ensemble! Luo Binghe, Ning Yingying cried, distressed. Will you only be happy once you burn everything, Qingjing Peak included, to ashes? Luo Binghe responded immediately, without a second thought. Of course not. He frowned. If anyone dares to touch a single blade of grass, a single tree, a single stalk of bamboo, a single building on Qingjing Peak, I will not spare them. Lu Qingge humphed. How insecure. Chengluan flared, its sword glare sweeping past Luo Binghe's cheek and whipping up his hair. Luo Binghe put his hand on the sword hung at his waist, returning bite for bite. You overestimate yourself. In the end, however, the two swords failed to cross again. Shen Jingzhou stood between them. Sword energy surged and collided from both sides, promptly splitting the bamboo hat he'd been wearing for appearances in two. And here is another illustration. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Look at them! Oh my babies! Oh my god, this is my favorite ship. These three are my favorite ship. What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? Where was I? With his left hand, he caught the point of Chengluan between two fingers, preventing Lu Qingge from advancing another mote, while his right pushed down on the hand Luo Binghe had placed on Xin Mo, preventing him from drawing it. God, look at them! They're so surprised! What can you say? Exactly. What can I say? What can I say? I'm over here. I'm over here.
They just don't look at them and their faces are like,
is this Shen Jingzhou? Anyway. It's only a body. It's only a body, everyone. Only a body. There's no need for this. Shen Jingzhou looked to his left, then looked to his right, those words still unspoken on his tongue. Then Luo Binghe abruptly flipped his hand over and grabbed his wrist, fastening around it securely like a shackle of ice. The smile on his face looked almost twisted as he articulated every word. Caught you, Shizun. I give Shen Jingzhou 1,000 viewpoints, yes! Even though Shen Jingzhou had long been prepared, he couldn't resist a chill of terror at seeing this face so close. After a moment of absolute silence, a clamor rose in the hall. Yue Qingyuan was astonished, his voice trembling faintly. Are you Jingzhou Shidi? Chi forgot to hack at Tsinghua any further, and the latter hurriedly took the chance to scramble back behind Mo Beijun. Ning Ying tugged on the battered and bruised Ming Fan. Oh, Da Xizong, did you hear? She murmured. Alo and Zhangmen Xizong are saying this person is Shizun? He looks like he is, said Ming Fan, but also not. However, Yang Yizhuan's approach was entirely different. He said in shock, "These techniques, isn't it? Peerless, Senior Peerless. Senior Peerless is Shen Shibo?" "Thank you for not saying the entire ID." Lu Qingge's eyes suddenly went wide, his usual ineffective expression crackling completely. "You're not dead?"
Oh, I love him so much. Oh, I love him so fucking much. He loves him so, it's the way that he uses his words that I love.
Oh my god. Shen Qingzhou's once guilty and grateful feelings shattered to pieces. "Lushini, what's that look on your face?" he asked, disbelieving. "Aren't you happy that your Shishong is alive?" Lu Qingge's face flickered through an entire rainbow of colors, first green, then black, then white. It was quite a marvel to see, and many others looked about the same. Before Shen Qingzhou could respond, a hand tugged his face back around. "At last you're willing to reveal yourself?" Lo Binghe asked. Shen Qingzhou's bones felt like they were about to break under Lo Binghe's grip. The only thing he could move were his legs, but it wasn't like he could kick Lo Binghe's crucial bits before the crowd. Faint flames of rage surged within him as he recalled every detail of what had happened. "You did this on purpose," he said. "What are you referring to, Shizun?" said Lo Binghe. "Instead of directly butchering your way through the mountain, you chose to drag things out to this extent. You meant to draw me out." Lo Binghe sneered. "So Shizun can, at times, guess what this disciple is thinking as well. This disciple is so overjoyed that he might lose his mind. I'm dying to beat my chest and stomp my feet, and I will certainly remember this moment until the end of my life." You see, he is just this sweet little baby lotus. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He's so, oh my, Lu Qingge withdrew his sword, his body swaying like he was still a bit dizzy. He pointed it at Lo Binghe. "You, let go of him." Lo Binghe dragged Shen Qingzhou into his arms and said irritably, "What did you say?" His movements were forceful, and as Shen Qingzhou was pressed into his embrace, those simmering flames leapt into a towering blaze a meter high. He silently sucked in a breath. "When did you realize that it was the real me in the dreams?" If Lo Binghe hadn't discovered that weak link, he could never have guessed that Shen Qingzhou wasn't dead, nor would he have been able to get Shen Qingzhou to deliver himself free of charge simply by waiting at Sangcheng Mountain. "Shizun, aren't you being a bit too condescending to me? Even if I didn't suspect it the first time, I really wouldn't have been a fool if I failed to notice anything wrong the second." Shen Qingzhou's knees suddenly hurt. "You're not the fool," he thought to himself. "I am." He'd known exactly how incredible Lo Binghe's cultivation was, how transcendental. How transcendental. What the fuck? I can't read that word. How transcendental. Dental. That word. His control over the dream realm. And yet, only Shen Qingzhou could have been fully aware of these things and still believe that Lo Binghe had been genuinely delirious, unable to differentiate between an intruder and an illusionary creation. If you'd already noticed something was wrong, why not expose me? Had it been fun playing along with the skit of a loving master and filial disciple? Lo Binghe stared at him. Why should I have exposed you? Didn't my sweetness make Shizun oh so happy? Happy? ... question mark. Shen Qingzhou hadn't been even the slightest bit happy. He'd only been worried about Luo Bingke's emotional state, and this incident proved that even his worry had been a fact. What the fuck? And this incident proved that even his worry had been a factor under Luo Bingke's control. After all, this was Luo Bingke, the male lead. How could a single blunder on Shen Qingzhou's bumbling part have turned him into a small, pitiful white lotus? Shen Qingzhou was indeed the type of person. Shen Qingzhou was indeed the type who was open to coaxing over force, but you couldn't just slap him in the face afterwards with an "I faked it." Wait, Qi Qingqi blurted out. What exactly is going on here?
Wait a second. Who are you?
She pointed toward the interior of Chongding Hall. Isn't that thing lying inside there Shen Qingzhou? How has another appeared? Luo Bingke appeared to be in a good mood. Why not ask the former Anding Peak Lord? Fucking hell, thought Shen Qingzhou. He should have known Shang Qinghua's slimy lack of integrity would come into play. Shang Qinghua let out a weak laugh, and with a single sideways look from Mo Beijun, he stepped forward without delay.
Sorry, I'm just imagining that he's so... He's just like... okay.
We can take this down as well for now. Drawing a deep breath while raising his head and chest, he said in a clear voice, Several years ago, in a certain place, Shen Shishong happened upon and obtained a treasured item known as the Sun Moon Dew Mushroom. This fungus has strong spiritual affinity and can recreate a flesh body. With this, Shen Shishong pulled off a grand escape in Huaye City by letting his soul leave his original form. Therefore, the one in the hall is him, though it's only an empty shell, and this one here is also him. Both are him. It was a succinct, crystal clear summary. Countless pairs of eyes promptly turned toward Shen Qingzhou. Lu Qingge instantly pointed Cheng Luan at him, his new murderous intent even stronger than what he had directed at Luo Bingke. If that was the case, then why did you make no attempt to correspond with the 12 Peaks for 5 years? Ye Qingyuan asked quietly. We received neither news nor sound from you. Could it be that, deep down inside, you see your fellow sect members as unworthy of trust? Harboring guilt within his heart, Shen Qingzhou's voice was weak. That, Shishong, hear me out. Shen Qingzhou, you... Qi Qingqi raged. Do you know how much suffering you've caused your Shishong? How much your disciples cried? They wept so much, so constantly, that Qingjing Peak might as well have been cloaked in rain clouds for an entire year. It was unbearable to visit, and while the Peak Lord's seat was empty, you were free as a bird, having the time of your life in the outside world. Shen Qingzhou was greatly afraid of the sharp-tongued Qi Qingqi jabbing at him and chewing him out. I didn't do it on purpose, and I wasn't having the time of my life in the least, he hurried to say. I was buried underground for 5 years and only woke up a few days ago. You tell me how that counts as free. It's all his fault. How can you blame me? Shang Qinghua said, indignant now that the heat was back on him. You were the one that said to ripen it quickly. Lu Qingge held his temples. Shut up! Shang Qinghua, shut up. The ruckus they were making as a group would have been comical under different circumstances, but because the occasion was all wrong, Shen Qingzhou found the humor quite dampened. The entirety of Chongding Peak was awash with firelight and scattered with scorched debris. After 2 days of back and forth, after 2 days of back and forth and siege warfare, it had lost its usual dignified grandeur. Both within and without the hall were blood-stained faces and disciples who had to be supported. The younger generation were worse off, constantly looking around anxiously, their complete exhaustion obvious. Momentum spent like an arrow at the end of its flight. Meanwhile, within the opposing battalion were demon generals and cavalry dressed in black armor, ready to move in a pincer maneuver. They glared like ravenous tigers, like freshly sharpened blades, and the edges bright and gleaming. Shen Qingzhou retracted his gaze. Lo Bingke, you said you came to Sangchong Mountain Sect in order to capture me. Correct, said Lo Bingke. You've captured me. And since he had achieved his goal, it should be time to withdraw. Lo Bingke stared at him. You won't run away anymore? Shen Qingzhou was silent, then slowly nodded. I won't run anymore. The corners of Lo Bingke's lips twitched, and then he pulled up into a helpless smile. It held none of the mocking sarcasm that had been plastered on his face until this moment. I believe Shizun so many times already, he said lightly. Shen Qingzhou, what's the meaning of this? Lu Qingge asked suddenly. He stared at Shen Qingzhou as if he'd suffered some enormous disgrace. The Baijian Peak Lord is here, yet you throw yourself at another's feet before him. Ooh, they're fighting over him. I mean, they've been fighting over him, but they're like really fighting over him now. Shidi, I understand that as the Baijian Peak Lord, you feel like your dignity has been violated. But please use a different phrase. Like hell I'm throwing myself at anyone. Use a different phrase. Thank you. You fear becoming a burden to Sangchong Mountain, said Lu Qingge, but Sangchong Mountain fears not your burden. Lo Bingke sneered. How many unbroken bones do you still have? Ye Qingyuan's hand grasped Xuan Su's hilt. He'd barely done so when next to him Mu Qingfang anxiously said, Zhangman Qishong, you were in secluded cultivation and forcefully interrupted your training, then faced these strong foes. It was already terribly hard on you. By pushing yourself to draw your sword now, I'm afraid your body will really... A burst of black chi rose from Ye Qingyuan's face, but he forced it back down. Even if I can't, I must, he said in a strained voice. Shidi has already died once, and at that moment I was unable to protect him. How can I watch him go to his death a second time? At those words, turmoil surged within Shen Qingzhou's chest. When it came to the people who Shen Qingzhou most admired and revered in this world, the one who placed first was none other than Ye Qingyuan. It wasn't so much because of his sincere desire to shield Shen Qingzhou, but because of how he always put his entire heart and soul on the line for the sect. Shut the fuck up. Stupid. This guy. Shen Qingzhou was too ashamed to let Sangchong Mountain and its sect leader continue to wipe his ass and pay the bill. He was the one who had dug his own grave, so he was also the only one who should suffer the consequences. This is the disciple I taught, so it's only right for me alone to take responsibility. Zhangmen Shishong is the head of the sect. On your shoulders rests the safety of every disciple on the 12 peaks. I trust you know what to choose. God damn. Ow. Ow. Only with context this is so fucking ow, but oh, wow. Return. Shut the fuck away. Shut the fuck away. Shut the fuck up and fuck off. Stupid bitch. The hall was silent. You know what you seem like to me? It's that meme where that guy is running. I think it's from like that Jimmy something, Jimmy Neutron or something, where that guy is like, and then comes back and then eats a cookie and then runs away again. That's exactly what you are right now. Stupid. The hall was dead silent. Yura Qingyuan's face froze, and the knuckles of his hand gripping the sword went stark white. Oh, ow! Shen Jingzhou was reminding him, when in an unfavorable situation, the choice he should make as head of the sect went without saying. The various peak lords had the exact same thought. So instead, it was Ning Ying Ying who ran out. She grabbed Shen Jingzhou's arm and yelled, "I disagree!" "Ming Fan, take care of your Shimei," said Shen Jingzhou. "I'm no longer a child," said Ning Ying Ying. "I don't need to be taken care of. It's always Shizun taking on everything himself. Whether it was that time with the demon woman or against Huanhua Palace at Jinlan City. So this time, why must it be you again? Why is it always Shizun who needs to suffer each and every time?" Because this was the grave he'd dug. However, it seemed like he'd managed to raise a normal and filial girl after all. A portion of his remaining worries found release. That's so cute. Why do you say all I remember? Let's distract us or never. No! Let me finish this fucking book. It's not the end. We still have another 2 books. So, weeping at your age, he chided. What sort of image are you projecting? This master won't die. Within his heart, he added, probably. The next moment, Ming Fan spoke, his face full of sorrow and rage. Isn't Shizun prostrating and submitting himself to the demons for Sangchong Mountain's sake, a fate worse than death? The sayings only speak of throwing away all one has to give to accompany righteous men, never about doing it to appease demons. What are you even saying? Ming Fan, you little hellion. How about you speak human words? That's exactly what I'm thinking as well. The situation had dragged on for so long that Luo Binghe had long lost his patience. He grabbed Shen Jingzhou with one hand, then put the other on Shinmo's hilt. I'll take Shizun's immortal body as well. You're not going too far. You're going too far, another Peak Lord said angrily. The person isn't enough for you. You also want the corpse? And for what? Luo Binghe didn't answer and only waved at Mo Beijun, issuing the order. Just when things had calmed down after such difficulty, another wrong word would reignite the conflict. Stop doing channel voice! Oh my god, this fucking guy. Wanting to cut that off at the pass, Shen Jingzhou was about to tug on Luo Binghe's arm, but thought this too unsightly and switched to yanking on his sleeve. Only after mulling it over briefly did he steel himself and say, I've already submitted to you. Why go so far? Damn, Shen Jingzhou. Upon saying these words, Shen Jingzhou felt deep shame. Now you play the Pornhub. What? Who said that? I have ghosts. I have ghosts. What? Thank you. Goodness gracious. Where was I? Okay, yep. He was a man, yet he had been forced to meekly tell another man that he would submit to him in front of so many people. And above all, the other man was his former disciple, which made it even more frustrating and shameful. Nonetheless, displays of submissiveness had a guaranteed effect on any man. Luo Binghe's expression noticeably cleared quite a bit, and not only did his grip loosen somewhat, his tone even softened. Despite this, his words remained as forceful as before. It's Shizun's original body, after all, so it's inextricably involved. And in the case Shizun tries to pull off another grand escape, this disciple would really be at a loss. As soon as he turned his face away, his voice cooled. Take it away. Mobei-jun had yet to move when Lu Mingyan suddenly appeared in the hall to whisper to Qi Qingqi's ear. The latter tilted her head to listen. The shock bloomed on her face before it transformed into calm. There's no need to fight anymore, she called out. Luo Binghe, there's no need to fight. There's no need for anyone to fight, she continued to say loudly. Even if we agreed to let you take the body away, your wish would not come true. Shen Jingzhou was well aware of Qi Qingqi's intense personality, and he figured that she was liable to do something extreme to enrage Luo Binghe. But just as he was thinking that this didn't look good, she surprised him by gesturing for Lu Mingyan to step forward. Mingyan, tell them. Oh, I've never... Mingyan? Okay. Brrr. Why the fuck did you highlight that, you stupid? It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose. What the fuck are you saying? Why did you fucking highlight that? You weirdo! What does that mean? Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, Mingyan is about to speak. Everyone shut the fuck up. Oh, my AC just stopped just then. Shen Qibo's immortal body has disappeared, said Lu Mingyan. After speaking, she stepped aside, and several disciples were brought in from the back of the hall. These were the disciples in charge of guarding the funerary platform, who watched over where their bodies lay. At this moment, they were all unconscious, and from their faces to their fingertips, their skin was an eerie, bruised color. The hall burst into an uproar. Yue Qingyuan's expression immediately changed, and Luo Binghe also raised an eyebrow. No need to look at me, Luo Binghe, Qi Qingqi said, unperturbed. I indeed wanted to hide the body away, but by the time I sent Mingyan to the back to move it, the platform was already empty. It's as if the corpse we'd carefully preserved managed to fly off without wings. I'm making these last few pages last as long as possible. Stop! You're stupid. Her mood and words were both overjoyed. It turned out she'd rather a corpse fly off than let Luo Binghe take it away. Mu Qingfan, I keep saying Qingfan. Mu Qingfang was next to the disciples, examining them. They're fully unconscious, but their lives are in no danger. They were poisoned. What poison? Yue Qingyuan asked. At this point, I cannot come to a conclusion. They're also injured. Wait for me to draw some blood for tests. If it's poison from the human realm, Mushidi will be able to identify it at a glance, said Qi Qingqi. Since he can't, I have to ask. Was it you? I dislike using poison, Luo Binghe said mildly. This was the truth. Luo Binghe rarely killed with poison. On top of that, in a situation like this where he held the complete upper hand, Luo Binghe had no need to lie. That was to say, some unknown party had taken advantage of the conflict between the two sides to slip onto the mountain entirely unnoticed, and this person had stolen away Shen Jingzhou's corpse right from under the noses of both the demon race and cultivation world, while only a handful of walls away. How could anyone not be shocked? Shen Jingzhou was puzzled. Why would someone steal his corpse? How come no one had wanted him while he was alive, but now that he was dead, he'd become Helen of Troy? Stupid bitch. Luo Binghe discerned that continuing to talk here would be pointless and frowned. Fine. No matter who took it, I'll find it. Shinmo left its sheath, and black chi streamed forth from it. An arcing crack split open where the blade sliced through the air. Drop the siege, Shen Jingzhou said to remind him. Luo Binghe gave him a look, then said briskly, As Shizun wishes. Chengluan's sword point hit the ground. Following it upward, Lu Qingge's hand was tightly clenched beneath his sleeve, and blood poured from the gaping open wound. It trickled down. It trickled down the length of the blade and dripped onto the floor. After a long second, he finally spat out, "Just you wait." These words were akin to an icicle launching forth, yet within it burned deep-seated flames of rage and a fighting spirit that could swallow the heavens. Jinmo was sheathed, but Lil Binka sneered. "Come try me." God damn, Lil Binka. Listen. End of book. End of book 2. End of volume 2. End of volume 2. Guys, that's the end of volume 2. We have one more book for the main story, and then we have the. Can you stop? What's your problem? Oh my god. This fucking guy. Anyway, as I was saying. Stop highlighting your message, it's so stupid. You're so fucking stupid. Oh my god. We have one more book of the main story, and then we have a whole book for side stories, which I would say might be my favorite part. I love all of it, but the side stories are really fun. They're really, really fun. Okay. Anyway, that is all for today. Apologies for the weird time. I suppose it is quite a strange time to stream for me. But that being said, it is not going to be the last. I'm not posting my schedule for next week. Boopy boop. I'm not posting my schedule for next week because I am intending to switch around my sleep schedule, so I will be sleeping during the nighttime like a normal fucking person. Singing voice, I can do that because I was doing it anyway. So I can sing like Hugh Jackman. So what I'm saying is that this next week, I suppose it's this week. I won't be doing times for my streams. You made me lose viewers. Look what you did, Foxy. I have no viewers on YouTube anymore because of you. Stop making me stream forever. They left. Fucking hell. What's a fun fact? Fun fact, the Les Mis movie fucking sucks. And also it's also what made like the Beauty and the Beast movie suck ass, and everything, all these musical adaptations come after it awful because they're like, oh yeah, let's have live vocals. No, if you're going to do acting, if you're going to you're so hi Muffin. I thought I lost you. If you're going to make a movie, why would you do live vocals where they're gonna be shit? Because you gotta act and you have to have all this stuff and like my guy he's not my guy. Hugh Jackman was like starved himself and dehydrated himself so much in like that first scene because, you know, he wanted to look that starved and dehydrated. So you can't sing like that. You can't sing well like that. The only person who actually sang well was Eponine. I forgot the actress's name, but she was the only one that actually sang. And fucking the other guy, the red, the color of just the sky. It's not the sky. Black, the night, the day just passed. That guy. Anyway, I'm gonna stop my Les Miserables movie rant. What was I doing? Oh yeah, next week Woo Wednesday will happen. Reading streams are gonna happen on the days that they should possibly, unless they're like the day after because I don't know, weird shit, you know. Okay, but it's gonna be random time, so you might just want to look out for the VOD instead. But yeah, that's what's happening. That is what's happening. It's gonna be rough. I'm gonna have to stay up all day today. You're weird. Yeah, okay. Okay. You. Okay, you. Okay, it's time. Put him up. Put him up. Let's go. Let's go. You and me, buddy. Right here, right now. Anyway. I'm gonna go. I hope you enjoyed this. This was really fun. For your shoes. No, I only have so many. I only have a little bit of shoes. I don't spend money on shoes. I only have one pair of shoes and then 2 pairs of slippers and then like and one boots and one other fancier shoes. I'm a neat. I went outside today. What are you talking about? Why are you keeping me here? Why are you keeping me here? This guy. Oh my god. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna fucking go. I'm gonna leave, okay? I'm running away. Ah! I'm running away. I'm running away from all my problems. And my problems include this guy right here. Foxy DMVT. He's my problem. You're my problem. Look at you. Look at you and your stupid face. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go and end on a British accent. All right? All right. Have a good rest of your day. And I will see you in the next reading stream, I suppose. I don't think I'm going to be doing any other kind of streaming this week. Apart from certain somewhere. Wow. See you in the hall. Yeah, see you in the hall. All right, peace, and I'm not finishing that sentence. I'll see you later. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good last seconds of your week, I suppose. Bye. Wait, hang on, bitch. Nah, let's go. Okay, bye.